from Dante Boxing Nation.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So now that one of the biggest fights of the year is official, Terrence Crawford versus Shawn Porter, which is going to be on November 20th, their payouts have been released. Shawn Porter is guaranteed $4 million plus, and Terrence Crawford, he's guaranteed $6 million plus. This is good news for both fighters because the fight is on pay-per-view. That means they could both make anywhere from $8 to $15 million after the numbers come in. It was really surprising that Bob Arum, he made this deal at the very last second, right before the purse bid. Like I said, because of the magnitude of this fight, he knew that people were going to bid high on it. This is top two. Next to Fury versus Wilder 3, this is the biggest fight of the year. Terrence Crawford, he's been trying to get an opportunity like this for the longest. Obviously, he didn't want Shawn Porter originally. He wanted the guy that beat Shawn Porter, which was Errol Spence, which is normally how it works in every other sport. You don't play against a team that loses in the playoffs. You play against a team that advances in the playoffs. But since we don't have Crawford versus Errol Spence, the next big thing is Crawford versus Shawn Porter, because we get to see a direct comparison. We get to see how Terrence Crawford is going to look against one of the most dangerous welterweights in the division, a fighter that has one of the most unorthodox and effective styles in the sport of boxing. Shawn Porter is extremely durable, can fight on the inside, the outside, has a solid chin. If Terrence Crawford, who has knocked out almost every opponent that he has faced, and the majority of guys he's knocked out had never been knocked out previously before. In fact, a lot of them were undefeated. So if he can knock out Shawn Porter, oh man, that would be a massive statement in the sport of boxing, period. Listen, we all know historically, the welterweight division has always been one of the most deepest divisions in the sport of boxing, in boxing history. That's the reason why when you become a unified champ there, it's a hell of an accomplishment. It's not like Canelo Alvarez unifying the belts at 168, where all of the champions are beatable champions. We all know that if you put all of the big name fighters up against all the champions at 168 that were there before Canelo fought them, we know most guys would beat them. But you can't say the same when it comes to fighters like Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence, or even your Dennis Ugas, who would be the weakest link out of the three. So being undisputed, it only means something if you're really going against all of the most dangerous fighters in the sport of boxing. I mean, just think about it. Terrence Crawford, he beat Jeff Horn. Jeff Horn beat Manny Pacquiao. Regardless if you want to say Manny Pacquiao was robbed, that doesn't even matter because you still have to answer the question, how come Manny Pacquiao didn't look as dominant against Jeff Horn as Terrence Crawford looked against Jeff Horn? How come Manny Pacquiao struggled against him? On top of that, did you guys know Manny Pacquiao turned down a rematch with Jeff Horn? Who does that? When you feel you've been robbed, fighters always are desperate to get the rematch, right? They're begging for a rematch when they feel they've been robbed. I mean, imagine if Ali turned down a rematch with Joe Frazier. Imagine if Muhammad Ali turned down a rematch with Leon Spinks. When Lennox Lewis truly got robbed against Evander Holyfield, he demanded the rematch, and he came back and he beat Evander Holyfield decisively. Manny Pacquiao turned down the rematch because that was an extremely difficult fight for him. Styles make fights. So my point is, when Terrence Crawford beats Jeff Horn, of course, because he's on a coincidental list, they try to completely take credit away from that win. But when someone like Canelo Alvarez is unifying the belts and he's fighting against Caleb Smith, Rocky Fielding, Caleb Plant, BJ Saunders, when he's fighting against fighters like this, old media is trying to praise him for it. Meanwhile, none of those guys have ever gotten a win as big as Jeff Horn has gotten over Manny Pacquiao. Let me say something else about the robbery excuse. You know, when Manny Pacquiao lost to Tim Bradley, of course, everyone said that that was a robbery. And when the WBO, they rejudged the fight, the WBO, they still had the fight close, but they had Manny Pacquiao winning the fight when the WBO judges rescored the fight. Guess what? When those same WBO judges rescored the Pacquiao-Jeff Horn fight, guess who they had winning? They had Jeff Horn winning the fight. But like I said, it doesn't matter because Manny Pacquiao, he turned down a rematch and he struggled. Even if you thought he won the fight, which your opinion doesn't matter, he struggled in the fight and he lost. When we think of the greatest fighters of all times, we think of names like Sugar Ray Leonard, Hagler, Hearns, Ali, Duran. And why are these fighters considered great? They're considered great because of the opponents that they beat, right? Sugar Ray Leonard is considered great because he beat everyone when it comes to that Super Four, right? When it comes to Duran, Hagler, Hearns, he beat all of them. Ali is great because he beat Sonny Liston, Frazier, Foreman, right? There's not too many fighters that are considered great because they had unified all of the belts or just because they became a champion. It's not becoming a champion, it's which champions you beat in history. Because if Sugar Ray Leonard didn't beat Hearns, but instead he beat Caleb Smith, he wouldn't be considered as great as he is today. Matter of fact, just imagine if Sugar Ray Leonard was fighting today. He's got Hearns, he's got Duran, he's got Benitez, all in his division. He decides that he doesn't want to fight any of those guys. Instead, he's going to move up in weight and he's going to unify all the belts and fight against some champions that most people have never even heard of. Fighters like Caleb Smith, fighters like Billy Joe Saunders, Rocky Fielding. Do you think he would still be considered as great as he is today? Absolutely not. So listen, my point is, I don't know if Terence Crawford is going to get the Errol Spence fight, but the thing we know about Crawford is he has always dared to be great. He's daring to be great right now. When Errol Spence was the real boogeyman, there was only one person who wanted to fight him, and that was Terence Crawford, right? That's what you do when you want to be great. You don't avoid the most dangerous champion to move up to a different weight class and fight the weakest champions in a division. That's not what a pound for pound king does. That's not what the greats do. So like I told you guys before, Crawford might not be getting the fight that he always wanted, which is the Errol Spence fight, but he's getting the next best thing, which is a fight against Shawn Porter. So this will put him in position to most likely get that Errol Spence fight because it would be very difficult for Errol Spence to not take this fight if Terence Crawford goes in there and he annihilates or just dominates a very, very dangerous Shawn Porter. And let me just make this distinction right now, and it's really important to address this. For some of these black people out there on Instagram, on the internet, that are just constantly dissing Terence Crawford just to big up Errol Spence, these are not people that rep new media, okay? They have nothing to do with new media. I just want to make that very, very clear. I mean, there is nothing wrong with doing the right thing and giving both Errol Spence and Terence Crawford the credit that they deserve. But you got some of these black folks on the internet like they on some Bloods and Crips type shit. I mean, I understand the racist people going after Terence Crawford because they want to compare him to Canelo and say that Canelo is pound for pound, et cetera, et cetera. We know how that goes. That doesn't bother me because that's what racists are supposed to do. But it makes no sense when I see black Americans that are completely trying to throw one black man under the bus just to try to make the other one look good when you can make both of them look good. Now, don't get it twisted, though. If it's a black man that's making himself look bad, then go ahead and expose him by all means. But what would be the purpose of still trying to discredit Crawford after you know that he's fighting Porter when some of these black folks I'm talking about were actually accusing Crawford of ducking Porter, right? That's the type of stuff I'm talking about. It makes no sense to say things like this. And then they'll say stuff like, oh, well, you know, Crawford's only taking this fight because he had to, he was forced to, because it's his mandatory. Well, guys, if that was the case, then Canelo, he would have fought Charlo. Lomachenko would have fought Devin Haney. And Oscar Valdez, he would have fought Shakur Stevenson at 126. Why? Because all of these guys were mandated to fight their number one contenders. I've seen some fans in my comment section say that Terence Crawford only signed with Top Rank so he can avoid PBC fighters. so he could avoid the best fighters in the world. They say things that make absolutely no sense at all, based off of their personal disdain towards Terrence Crawford. Because like I said, none of this has anything to do with facts. It's all personal. It's a ridiculous thing to say. Did you guys know that Terrence Crawford, he actually signed with Top Rank before the existence of PBC? PBC emerged in 2015. Terrence Crawford, he turned pro in 2008. He signed with Top Rank in 2011. So that means Terrence Crawford turned pro 4 years before Errol Spence did. Errol Spence, he turned pro in 2012. So what do you mean he signed with Top Rank to avoid PBC fighters or top level fighters? Tyson Fury is with Top Rank, and he's about to fight the most dangerous fighter in the entire sport by his own admission, Deontay Wilder, and doing it a third time. And see, guys, this is the reason why I really need to make things clear. Because over here, when it comes to new media, we are all about the whole truth. It's not about making things personal. Maybe because a fighter doesn't want to give you an interview, or he doesn't watch your YouTube channel, or something like that, all of a sudden, your whole agenda or narrative changes. No, the truth will always be the same, regardless of how you feel about this person that you're talking about, how you feel about that person personally, or if this guy is a fan of your YouTube channel, this boxer. The truth never changes, right? I wouldn't care if Deontay Wilder, for example, if he hated my guts. I'm still going to report the truth no matter what, because what we are dealing with in the sport of boxing is bigger than just two people having a petty ass disagreement on getting an interview or whatever the case may be. We got way bigger problems than that in the sport of boxing. We're talking about a sport that is completely racially divided. You got old media that has gotten so sick of black fighters winning big fights in the history of boxing that they're getting to the point now to where they're trying to go out of their way to protect all of these non-black fighters from any black fighter that they feel is a threat. And while all this is going on, you got some of these black people that are actually dissing the black fighters. It makes no sense in the world, because we would never see this when it comes to Canelo Alvarez fans. And speaking of Canelo Alvarez fans, it's the complete opposite with them. See, because Canelo Alvarez fans, they want you to tell them things that are not true to make them feel better about their fighter, Canelo Alvarez. They want you to lie and say this man is as great as Floyd Mayweather and he's pound for pound the best fighter in the world. He's this and he's that. They want you to tell them things that are not true because that's what makes them feel better, right? We know for a complete fact that if a fighter like Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence, was avoiding the most dangerous fighters in their division, and instead they were moving up to a higher weight class to fight fighters like Caleb Smith, Rocky Fielding, BJ Saunders, we know no one will be calling him pound for pound the best fighter in the world. We know this. I've already given you my example on how they treated Terrence Crawford when he beat Jeff Horn. And like I said, Jeff Horn has a better resume than all of the Eastern European fighters that Canelo Alvarez has beat at 168. I mean, it's just crazy, man, when you look at the contrast. When it comes to Crawford, you will have actual black people dissing this man for fighting Sean Porter, one of the most dangerous fighters in the welterweight division, someone that they were accusing Crawford of ducking. But then when you look at the Canelo Alvarez fans, they're going out of their way defending Canelo for fighting Rocky Fielding, Yil Dirham, Caleb Smith, and the rest of the gang, right? Meanwhile, you had some black people that were dissing Crawford for even wanting to fight Errol Spence. Just for wanting to fight Errol Spence, they were dissing Crawford. So I'm just telling you guys, man, when you see black folks doing this, because I get messages all the time, people sending me messages, asking me, man, what's up with these black people dissing Crawford, because they're thinking that they're affiliated with new media. And I'm telling them that ain't got nothing to do with me. That ain't got nothing to do with me, and I don't know why they doing it. But I'm gonna wrap this video up. We'll be talking a lot more about this in other videos. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Tony Flow Knight. Hey, make sure y'all go download the new album at www.shelltown5records.com. That's www.shelltown5records.com. Flames is all we got.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is the big day. SMPs at Scout Carolinas. I need a real restoration. This is my makeover right here.
Fellas, I've got some great news for you. If you've lost your hair or have a receding hairline, the time has come when you can finally get your hairline back through a process called scalp micropigmentation. So here's how it works. It's a hair tattoo that replicates the look of your hair follicles when you have fully shaved it down. So to get this hookup, make sure you follow and contact my man Scalp Carolinas on Instagram.
Get ready to take your striking game to the next level with the Focus Ball. Dramatically improved footwork, timing, head movement, hand-eye coordination, reflex, and overall fight IQ. It's lightweight and extremely portable, so you can train every time, everywhere. When you don't have a coach to do mitt work, get a Focus Ball. When you don't have a heavy bag to hit, get a Focus Ball. When you don't have a sparring partner, get yourself a Focus Ball. And when you just want to have fun punching and kicking, get a Focus Ball. When you train with the Focus Ball, you train your eyes and your brain to read punches so that you can hit and not get hit, making this very simple device a must-have for all combat sports athletes and enthusiasts alike. So if you want to take your striking game to the next level, don't wait. Get the Focus Ball now.